What's going on, everyone? So PJ Washington is still available on the market, at least at the time of recording this video. He's 24 years old, very versatile style forward, wing that can play both forward spots, 6'7" size. He's 230 pounds, so he's got good weight behind him, and a guy that can do a little bit of everything. I mean, this is a guy that was averaging just under 16 points, 5 rebounds, and 2.5 assists. This is a guy who has a career 36, almost 37% 3-point percentage. 2 years ago, on 4.5 attempts, he was shooting 38, almost 39%. And last year, his 3-point shooting production did drop. He dropped to just under 35% at 34.8% on 5.9 attempts per game. His volume also went up. So that's something interesting to look out for. But I guarantee you that that's not the reason why teams haven't jumped at the opportunity. There have been several reports throughout the course of this offseason of countless teams that are interested in PJ Washington and may have potentially put an offer in for him and ultimately didn't. And a lot of it is centered around the Charlotte Hornets, right? What are the Hornets going to do with PJ Washington? They didn't offer him a real contract. He does have the qualifying offer. And, most teams, especially at this point, don't have the money to go and give him any type of reasonable contract that would put the Hornets in a position to where they'd have to match, right? There's not really any teams out there that have, 20 million a year to offer him or 15 million a year to offer him or something like that, right? So he has two options here. Either A, he can go and try to work something out with the Hornets via sign and trade. He could work something out with the Hornets via, hey, yes, you guys can give me a qualifying offer of, I think it's like 8.4 million, but I'd rather go to this team. They're going to give me more opportunity, or I feel like I'd be better here. I would grow here, and maybe they'd be willing to let him go. I don't know if they would, but you never know. Plus, the Charlotte Hornets, they're not really a model of like good decisions and players and stuff, right? So also beyond that, there's a real question of where does he fit on this roster, right? They have Miller now, and Brandon Miller is probably going to play the 3 guard, is my guess. Or do they release Gordon Hayward and maybe move him to the 2 guard, and then they play Bridges, right? They re-signed Miles Bridges. So Miles Bridges, he's very likely going to play the 3 or the 4. And so let's say Bridges plays the 4. Let's say you got Ball at the 1. Say you have Hayward at the 2, Miller at the 3. PJ Washington's now moving to the bench. And what kind of playing time does he look at? What type of development time does he look at? This is a guy that was playing 33 minutes a game last year, and does his production go from 33 minutes per game to 17 minutes per game or 20 minutes per game, right? And this is a guy that was a model of health pretty much his whole career. He played 73 games last year, 65 the year before, 64 the year before. His fewest games played was his rookie season, in which he played 58 games. But this is a ideal type of forward for many teams in the league. Young, he still has plenty of room to grow and develop in the right environment, the right situation. This is a guy that could absolutely improve and help a team and a roster. And we got some reports of just kind of the idea of PJ Washington and the outlook for some of these teams, and something that maybe even the Lakers could look at. And that is, however, several teams around the league spent their cap space by absorbing contracts through trades, that's left Washington out in the cold and potentially open to returning to the Hornets on a 1-year, $8.5 million qualifier offer, according to Sean Devaney. He also adds a sign and trade could also be an option, but most rosters seem set ahead of training camp, with the exception of the outstanding Damian Lillard or James Harden trades. Whichever team does get Washington for the 2023-2024 season would have one of the game's most versatile forwards, though. So, again, you have a couple options. Either A, he could take the qualifying offer at $8.5 million. B, he tries to force his way out elsewhere, and a team takes a chance on him, and maybe he can convince the Hornets, like, hey, you don't really want me here anyway, let me go. Maybe you could work something out to where, you could give up a second or something like that to get him. There's ways around it. And the other option is just, he just kind of waits it out, right? I guess that's another real option. I don't think that would happen, especially at 24 years old. But it is interesting the position that PJ Washington is in, because he is a very good player. And he is a guy that I think could make an impact. And I've talked about this before. I would love to see the Lakers just kind of try to make a push at it, right? Like, could you work something out, convince him? You could throw the vet minimum at him, right? Because he is restricted, so you can offer, a price. At that point, you'd imagine the Hornets would match that and agree to keep him at that price, because that's less than the qualifying offer. But I don't know. I mean, if they're not really interested in PJ Washington, and we've seen stranger things happen. We've seen teams just kind of let go of guys that they're not really feeling, and maybe the Lakers work something out and incorporate a second or something like that. He would be great with the 15th roster spot, right? Give the Lakers another young, versatile wing that could play multiple positions, right? That is 24 years old and kind of fits the mold. Maybe you wait a little bit and you try to work out a trade, because even if he signs the qualifying offer at $8.4 million or $8.5 million, he's still a guy that could have some value for the Lakers and wouldn't cost much to trade for him. Now, I'm not saying you're trading Jared Vanderbilt or anything like that. Of course not. But maybe you could work some type of deal out. Maybe you sign somebody to a vet minimum on like a non-guaranteed for that 15th spot. Whomever, right? Bring in like a vet guy or something that you could just add the salary to, and then maybe you unload like a Maxwell Lewis or something like that, which would suck. I like Maxwell Lewis a lot, but PJ Washington, again, he's a very good player. Very good player. This is a guy that, as like the fourth option, is giving you like 18 a game or 16 a game. Part of me just feels bad that PJ Washington is on the Charlotte Hornets, right? Part of me is just like, dude, get this guy off. Because I think in the right, like, I don't know why the Spurs don't try to go work something out for him. I get that they're probably going to play Victor Wembanyama at the 4, but even then, like, I think PJ Washington, because he is a decent passer, right? This is a guy that averages like 2.5 assists a game for his career. This is a guy that is not against moving and sharing the ball. This is a guy that I think could play in the Spurs system. I think would be a nice pairing next to Victor. Guy that could be very versatile. Like, I think there are several teams that could really use PJ Washington as one of their forwards. But I don't know. I'd love the Lakers to just take a shot, right? So there's a lot of talks and reports about Christian Wood coming to the Lakers, right? Now, if Christian Wood comes to the Lakers, then I guess PJ Washington doesn't really make a lot of sense, because you're probably playing PJ Washington at the 4, but Christian Wood is more of a 4 than he is anything else. And I don't know if PJ Washington was like the immediate big off the bench at the 4 spot, right? Like, so like, let's say you were running Taurean Prince at the 2, Jared Vanderbilt, Rui Hachimura are basically sharing minutes at the 3 spot, and sparingly at the 4 spot, and you had LeBron starting at the 4. So like, let's say our starting unit is very likely could be this, although there are talks about Hayes starting. But let's say Hayes doesn't start, and you just have straightforward, right? It's LeBron, Anthony Davis, Rui Hachimura, Austin Reeves, and D'Angelo Russell, right? You could have Jared Vanderbilt as the first big, replacing Rui. You could have Taurean Prince replacing Reeves, Gabe Vincent replacing D'Lo, and then you could have PJ Washington replace LeBron James, and then of course Hayes replacing Anthony Davis. I think that would be pretty good, and I think that may entice him, thinking like, oh, well, if once LeBron leaves, I'd get a bigger role, I'd be able to play in a more opportunity, like I could stick around here and be in a better environment, better situation. So I could see him maybe trying to force his way to the Lakers a little bit. But if you get Christian Wood, I don't think it makes sense. But if the Lakers don't land Wood, right? Like, let's say the Lakers end up with Bismack Biyombo. Why not just take a shot and try to work something out to go get PJ Washington, right? I mean, there's a will, there's a way. There's always ways to figure it out and try to navigate to make it happen, right? And so, I don't know, if you can get him and he's on board, you would need a little persuasion from him, right? He would have to try to press the issue a little bit. He'd have to basically say, like, I want to go to Lakers, make this happen, or if they offer me a contract, don't match it. And he would have to take a discount. But it goes into, like, the Lakers standard, right? Like, we've seen this on numerous occasions where a young Malik Monk, right, comes to the Lakers, takes less than he probably would have gotten elsewhere. But it ended up paying off because he got a lucrative deal with the Sacramento Kings, and now he's playing a big role for them. Right? Like, you could make the argument for PJ Washington, like, yes, the Hornet, you could accept the qualifying offer of $8.5 million, or you could kind of work with us to try to force your way here to the Lakers. And if you play well and you buy in and you do the things that you need to do, our spotlight and what the brand is really going to have an impact for you. Right? It's really, you come in and you play well, you're probably going to get a better contract elsewhere, or maybe even with us, right? Like, LeBron James could easily opt out. Let's say Washington comes in. Let's say he's a huge piece and component for the Lakers, right? And let's say the Lakers win. Why wouldn't they want to keep PJ Washington? Because even after LeBron, right, you'd still have Rui, Vanderbilt, you'd still have Maxwell Lewis, you'd have PJ Washington. Like, you'd have a nice young core as far as perimeter wings go, and you'd be set, right? So, like, your basic starting front court, if you wanted to, you could go, say, Vando, Rui, Anthony Davis with PJ right off, coming right back. Like, what if our starting five in 2 years is Austin Reeves at the point, which they're trying to get him more point guard shape. That's the plan this year based on reports. So you have Austin Reeves at the point, you have Max Christie at the 2, you have Vando at the 3, you have Rui at the 4, and Anthony Davis at the 5 with Gabe Vincent at the 1, maybe Shafino or Lewis at the 2, you got PJ Washington at the 4, Jackson Hayes at the 5. Like, you start looking at this roster and it's like, oh man, like, Cam Reddish, right? They could keep Cam Reddish for the long haul, so maybe Cam Reddish plays the 3. I mean, he would be a nice acquisition. Will it happen? Probably not. It's something that is far more unlikely than likely, but again, stranger things have happened. And if you already get your backup center, at that point, what do you have to lose? Right? Like, you already have your roster locked up. The 15th spot is very likely just going to be a guy that is a vet guy that comes in and, is just kind of a locker room guy, or it's one of your young guys that is probably never going to play. So if you could find a way to get PJ Washington with that 15th roster spot, it doesn't, like, what's the worst case? It doesn't work out. He doesn't help. And it's like, okay, well, you still have 14 other guys that can have a huge impact for you. Right? So, I don't know. I like the idea, but as always, I pass the question on you. Let me know yours down in the comments below. What do you think? Do you think, obviously, again, you gotta lock up the center spot, but if they lock up the center spot, are you for them going and getting PJ Washington? Are you not? However you feel, whatever your thoughts are, I'd love to hear it. Let me know down in the comments below.